Well, it's 7 o'clock. I'd like to call this special meeting of the Lakewood City Council for Thursday, January 7th to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Boki. He has not joined the meeting. Councilmember Brandstetter.
Here.
Councilmember Farmer.
Here.
Councilmember Moss.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Whalen.
Hello?
We can't hear you, Jason.
Deputy Mayor, it sounds like you do not have audio again, but let the record reflect that he is in attendance. Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
And Councilmember Boki.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Well, thank you. We now move to new business. We have one item of business for this meeting, and that is the Oak Brook Neighborhood Streetlight Project. I call on Mr. Caulfield.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Deputy Mayor and council members. Thanks for having this special meeting this evening. Wanted to follow up from your action item on Monday evening and give you an update in regards to this project. First and foremost, wanted to let you know that since Monday evening, we have received at least, at last count, an additional 23 written comments from individuals in the neighborhood opposing the project. That's on top of the approximate 20 that we had reported to you that we had received by this last Monday evening. So we're now up to a total of about 43 distinct individuals and homeowners out in this area who are opposed to the project, either because of the wooden poles, the wires, and actually a number of them have called for the outright cancellation of the project as well. So I wanted to report that to you. Also wanted to report that the contractor did get underway with the work on Wednesday, and to date, they have installed 13 poles. And if the council so inclined, Mr. Busich, who is standing by, actually has a slideshow just to illustrate what the poles look like out there. He went out there this afternoon to obtain photos to show that. Also, wanted to let you know that we did ask the contractor to pause work today on Thursday and let them know that the council was having a meeting this evening so that they didn't continue to do some work out there, given that, the council, you do have the opportunity if you wanted to essentially take a look at the motion that you took on Monday evening, if you wanted to either reconsider that one way or the other. So with that, Mayor, that's my report. And again, if you'd like to have Mr. Busich show you a quick slideshow of what the polls look like, if the council's interested.
Quickly.
City Clerk, could you please see if the Public Works Engineering Director can be brought in?
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, members of City Council. Let's see if I can get this up. I only have a few slides to share with you tonight. Are you able to see the slides now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So as a reminder, this is on either side framed is what the poles will look like when they're done. They're approximately 29 feet out of the ground when they're done, 6 feet of burial depth. The light itself should be around 25 feet up above the ground, and we have a stack of poles ready to go. This is the operation of how they get installed. They're using a ductor truck to dig the hole. Crane comes in with a couple of them loaded on it, and then they use that and a couple of workers to drop the pole into the ground. And you can see on the final three pictures on the right how they're setting them up. So real fast, these are the completed poles put in to date. I don't believe they need a lot of explanation. It's a pole in the ground. We've been trying to locate these close to the property lines where two properties come together, but as you see in the bottom left, it is close to a driveway, and many of them are hidden with trees, but they are still visible. And that is all I have for you as far as the presentation goes on the poles.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Mayor Whalen, do you have audio?
Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can. I would like to pass the gavel to you and to be recognized to make a motion.
Chair recognizes Mayor Anderson.
I would move to renew the motion made at the January 4th, 2001 regular meeting to cancel the Oak Brook street light contract. This is essentially a motion for reconsideration. I'm making this as a member of the council who voted in favor of who was on the prevailing side motion.
Is there a second to the motion before we direct our attention to the parliamentarian?
Second.
Ms. Wachter.
Yes, I just wanted to make it clear that I've learned a lot about motions to renew and motions to reconsider. And the motion to reconsider is a much higher bar to meet. The mayor has met that bar, but this council could actually simply renew the motion. And so this is completely in order procedure. And you've actually met a higher bar that might otherwise be required. Technically, a motion to renew is all that would be required.
Okay. But it's been called a motion for reconsideration by the mayor, seconded by Councilmember Farmer. It's now open for discussion. Mayor?
Yes, the public comments both immediately prior to our meeting and since have made it clear that to me that our public outreach was fatally defective. As I indicated the night of the motion, I was uncomfortable taking a vote given that the information had come to us so late. It appears that given the unique nature of this particular neighborhood with its, the amenities of the landscaping supplied by the citizens, the fact that the power lines were generally behind the homes and the view sight lines of the street are not impaired by wires. It was not adequately taken into consideration. I'll take my share of the blame for that and not considering this well enough in advance. So I've come to the conclusion that this element of the project, though well-intentioned to streetlight this section of Oak Brook, was ill-conceived and poorly executed. Sometimes you have to say we screwed up. In this case, I screwed up. So I'd like the council to reverse the action it had taken and terminate the contract with the full understanding of both the council and the neighborhood that this essentially means that this section of Oak Brook will not get streetlights in the foreseeable future because there's, in my mind, no reasonably attainable funding source to underground street lighting in this area. Thank you.
Is there any other discussion by any other members of the council?
Yep, Deputy Mayor.
Mr. Boki?
Yeah, I just, for the record, how much money is this going to cost us?
Councilmember Boki, we're probably looking in the range of $180,000 to $190,000. But if the council does move forward with canceling the contract, we'll be able to report back in the next week or two on that.
Okay, that'll be general fund money, correct?
Either general for our general government monies. Yes, Councilmember.
Okay.
Any other members of the council have items they'd like to discuss? Ms. Moss?
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I noted in one of our letters that we received that they were offering to support putting the wires underground. Do we want to pursue that?
Question for Mr. Busich. I don't know if he can answer that at this point, but since we're in the discussion mode, I'll allow it. Ms. Wachter?
I know that there are some cities who do projects like this through a local improvement district or something on that order. It requires 100% participation by the members of the district created, and we could certainly explore that. I don't know where that would rank on the list of other work the city is obligated to, because that would be something brand new for us.
Just so we're clear, because we have 26 attendees, can you just explain what a local improvement district might mean for the homeowners?
Yes, what a local improvement district is, for example, if you wanted to underground, there's a cost to doing that. So let's assume, for the sake of an example, that there's 10 homes that have decided they want their 10 home area to be completely undergrounded. Those 10 people would find out the cost. The city would work with them to find out the cost of the project of doing the undergrounding. And then the cost of that undergrounding would be apportioned between the people who benefit from that undergrounding. So in other words, the people who are receiving the benefit of the district created are the people who pay for it. And that's in its most simplistic terms. There's some bonding involved and some things like that, but it's people taking on improvements for their own group or neighborhood. And it does not happen without 100% participation. Each person would be assessed their share of that amount.
Okay. Councilmember Moss, you had a question or a point?
No, I was just wanting to know if we wanted to pursue that since they offered it up.
It's really not on the table tonight. It's something we can certainly direct Public Works to make inquiry of members of the neighborhood if they so wish down the road. I think it's clear from the public comment that poles and overhead wiring for lights is not in favor. They have made mention of some desire maybe to have underground lighting, if at all, but that's a discussion for another day, and a discussion as to whether or not there be any city resources to ever do that. And in the absence of any city resources, Ms. Walker's correct, an LID is a possible option, but it's again not on tonight's motion.
Very good.
Any other discussion from members of the council? Mr. Brandstatter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I concur with the mayor's comments about the effective public outreach program that went with this. I mean, we kind of came into considering this not at the 11th hour, but maybe already at 2 a.m., given that it was a contract we awarded in May. It should have happened in August, and we're now here to do that. I also agree with the mayor that if canceling this contract does mean that this neighborhood is not going to get streetlights under the current community-wide streetlight program that we have put in place, that of necessity needs to have a common standard throughout the city to be able to go and do that. I'm disappointed in that because I think this is a neighborhood that can benefit from streetlights, and that it has 2 schools on its periphery, and it has some curving streets in an area where there is not the near-term possibility of sidewalks, so that non-motorized traffic for ADA folks, for walkers, and others is using the roadway. I recognize that the vast plurality of the comments that we've had have indicated that they want a different standard in their community than in the rest of the community-wide streetlight program with the wooden poles and power coming based on where power is provided in the neighborhood. And on Monday, my concern about trying to move and change standard was actually based on looking at this project and decision through the equity lens that we have talked about, that we need to look to do to provide more diverse communities one standard, and then come to a somewhat less diverse community and say, well, the standards can be upgraded there, is not something that we would want to do if we're serious about applying an equity lens to our policy and budgetary work. So I'm going to support changing, as the mayor said, with the understanding that this, based on the desires of the community, is to not have streetlights from the community-wide streetlight program. That's what will take place.
Thank you, Mr. Brandstetter. Are there any other members of the council with comments? If not, I just will provide a few of my sort of thoughts on this. I voted obviously in favor of terminating the contract at our meeting on Monday. And since then, we all received a lot of comment from folks, many of whom are known to us. They're our friends and our neighbors and fellow residents. And I just want to speak to all of you attendees and neighbors who provided comments and reached out to us. We want to thank you for being part of the process, because it's the process that makes public policy decisions better. And hopefully we'll learn from this one and make better decisions down the road. But the one thing I do want to impart is a strong sense that this was done and this policy decision was made by council a year or so or 2 years ago with the best of intentions to expand lighting throughout the city, to replace old lighting with LED lighting because it would save the city money and the taxpayers' resources over the course of time. And it is without dispute that adequate and proper street lighting throughout residential neighborhoods enhances our streets and neighborhoods and does enhance public safety. And that was one of the underlying bases for the city's adoption, the council's adoption of the city's street lighting plan. So I want the neighbors to recognize, as I'm sure they do, that this was always done with the best of intentions to do the right thing, and staff was executing the council's policy with the best of intentions to be good stewards of the city's funds and the public's trust. Unfortunately, with the exercise in this case, we stumbled by not giving as much adequate and proper prior notice as we would normally do. As many of you commented about the Onyx sidewalk project, there was plenty of active notice in that instance and much colloquy between the neighbors and city staff, and it resulted, I think, in a very fine project out there. But as the mayor indicated, this is a stumble that we have made, and we're owning up to it. And we are going to absorb about $200,000 of resources that could go to other neighborhoods and other projects that will now not go to other neighborhoods and other projects. But that's a decision that sounds like we'll be making tonight. But we just want to thank you for your participation and thank you for reaching out to us and helping us make our city better in many ways. So in the absence of any further discussion, I'll call the question. Why don't we do a roll call vote? Ms. Schumacher?
Councilmember Bope,
Aye.
Councilmember Brandstetter,
Aye.
Councilmember Farmer,
Aye.
Councilmember Moss.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Whalen,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson,
Aye.
motion carries.
I'll turn the gavel back over to you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. City Manager, is there any other business to come before the council at the special meeting?
There is none, Mayor. I'm sorry. No, there is not. That was the only agenda item. If I could just make a comment, Mayor.
Please.
Mayor, I appreciate you and the council taking responsibility for this, but ultimately, this rests on me as your city manager. We always do a good job with community outreach, and in this particular example, obviously, we dropped the ball. In the past, whenever we put streetlights out, in the community, the response has been not what we received, during this process. So certainly lessons learned here that we will take into account in future projects. So just wanted to communicate that to you.
Thank you. And I too would like to thank all the people who participated. This is in many ways the way democracy is supposed to work. People bring well thought out comments, grievances, requests to their elected officials. The elected officials listen. Sometimes the elected officials have taken a wrong turn, and hopefully, like I think we did tonight, we endeavor to correct those wrong turns instead of stubbornly digging in and refusing to recognize our own shortcomings. So thanks again for participating, all of you who joined us tonight. And without further ado, we're adjourned.
Night. Thank you.